I'm spanning.
You're spanning? Okay. Just tell me when you're done spanning. You're good? Okay, so this might be generalizing, but most people typically hate public speaking, am I right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So it can be pretty nerve-wracking to speak in front of a group of people. It kind of feels like all the attention is on you, kind of like it is on me right now. So that's why I'm here to help, is to help you deal with these nerves. So public speaking is almost inevitable. It comes up in interviews, it comes up in classes, projects that you have to do. It's a part of life through the college education system. It just happens. So why I'm here is to help you guys figure this out so it goes much smoother for you. So today I'm going to discuss why being nervous is normal, why you feel more nervous than you look, why being prepared is essential, and why envisioning excellence is important, and some extra tips and tricks to help you along the way. So first, let's talk about why being nervous is normal. So I'm going to admit I'm a little nervous right now. A lot of you staring at me. But even the best public speakers do experience being nervous at some point. You know why? Because it's normal. So according to Speaking Professionally about Alan Zaremba, this was published in 2015, most public speakers do feel anxious before going public. The textbook goes on to say that many people feel this way because they presume that they are under a tight watch, that all of the audience's undivided attention is on them, and that's not always the case. There are other factors that factor into this. So there could be outside noises, you could be on your phone, you could be daydreaming, legit anything could be happening that's taking your attention away from me speaking right now. So yeah, and okay, yeah. So this actually has happened to me before in a situation not too long ago, in this very class actually. I gave an entire presentation saying the Peace Corps instead of the Peace Corps, and nobody noticed but one guy. And you know, it's okay because he told the entire class, so they all noticed too. But it's fine. But so, honestly, if he hadn't spoken up, I don't think anybody would have said anything, anybody would have noticed, even though the entire time I was like, so in the Peace Corps, yeah, that was embarrassing. Yeah, but after that, I was kind of like, oh no, so I figured that out, and then I went on to present in another speech, and I did a lot better on that because I did practice a lot more on that one, and I made specifically sure to emphasize core. So that was cool. Second, you are more nervous than you look. So you can't probably tell, but I'm pretty nervous. So that's because you can't see how nervous I feel on the inside, which is pretty nervous. Zaremba writes that making eye contact and having great posture will help you with seeming more confident. So by me looking into your eyeballs, you're like, wow, Annalise is such a great public speaker. That's not the case. But because I'm standing tall and I'm looking into your eyes, you can't really tell how nervous I feel on the inside. And most people claim that whenever they go back and watch the presentation that they had just given, they claim that they actually look a lot more confident than when they were giving that presentation. So it's kind of in your head, ladies. Okay, so third, it is important to be prepared. So in my Timeline 15 class, there was this guy, it was like the last speech, and he went up to present, it was over German Shepherds or something like that, and you could just kind of tell that he had no idea what he was talking about. He would fumble around, look at his note card, and be like, and then just after 45 seconds of this, he just solid F-bomb, sits down, speech over. Don't be that guy. So prepare for your speeches. According to the article, Relationships Between Preparation and Performance in Public Speaking, written by Menzel and Carroll in 1994, there's a direct correlation between the amount of preparation and the success rates, or the feeling of success rates for people's speeches. They go on to discuss how it's also helpful to imagine yourself presenting in front of an audience. So before this, it was my roommate, and I was pretending like she was all of you while I was practicing it in front of her, and that kind of helps me mentally envision how it's going to go, or how my speech is going to go in that setting. So, yeah. And then, another thing, one that I forgot almost. Good thing I'm prepared with my little notes here. Is organization of your speech. I know it sounds pretty simple, but this is a huge part of your speech, is to write a speech outline, because if you don't even know how you're going to present or how you're going to talk, what are you even saying? So yeah. Fourth is seeing excellence is exuding excellence. So let's be honest, if you think you're going to do bad, you probably will. It's kind of like a mentality thing, so you have to envision success, you have to tell yourself that you're going to do better, or not better, do well. So tricks to envision success are mentioned in both of Zaremba and Menzel and Carroll's works. They use techniques like thinking of previous speeches and analyzing them, so you could think about a past speech of yours, you could think about someone else that presented really well, and what characteristics of that speech made it a good speech, and how can you implement those into your next upcoming presentation, your next interview. So kind of like picking and choosing the successful parts of a speech and choosing that for your own work. These correlations will kind of help you envision the line of success when organizing your speech. And last but not least, I'm going to talk about some extra tips and tricks. And all of the sources that I mentioned before, Zaremba, Menzel, and Carroll, they all offer advice, extra tips and tricks about speech anxiety. So these include using nervous energy to your advantage. So most of the time, whenever people are nervous, they kind of like let it get the best of them. So they like shake a lot, or they like pace around, just kind of nervous tics that you can tell. But what I try to do is I try to channel that through my hands, like my gestures, and I try to channel that through my vocal, like my vocal tonage. So if I'm talking to you, I like to not sound monotone, and I'm using my nervous energy where I'm normally like, ah, and I'm doing that instead. It's okay to laugh. I want to be funny. But I try to do that so that way you can't tell how nervous I am, and I'm trying to channel that energy into something more productive, something that makes me seem like a more collected public speaker. Another thing is to think positive thoughts. So it's pretty easy to kind of think irrational thoughts like, I'm going to do terrible, they're going to laugh at me, I'm so weird. But you know what? If you're sitting there telling yourself, no, even if I stumble, I'm going to get through it because they probably won't notice. They probably won't notice that I didn't prepare as much as I should have for this speech, or whatever have you, whatever reasoning. You just have to kind of mentally tell yourself it's going to be okay. And another thing is to get comfortable with the material. So probably don't, if you're not a very political person, probably don't do something over like Donald Trump if you didn't even know he was in the election. That might just be kind of something to steer clear from. And if you kind of have to do something that you don't know, make sure you read up a lot on it so if people ask you questions, you are more knowledgeable about the subject. And don't forget to breathe. That's kind of simple, but that happens, people. I mean, I'm like I talk pretty fast, but sometimes I even like write in my notes, breathe here, because it helps me kind of like function, because you know I need that to function. So it helps me collect myself and say, hey, okay, breathe and continue. So just remember that the audience is not rooting against you. Whoever you're speaking for probably doesn't want to watch you fall or like want to watch you do bad, because that's uncomfortable for them too. So they're not like, hee hee hee, hope this person does terrible. Not usually true, unless they don't like you, but hopefully that doesn't happen. You feel more nervous than you look, and it will all be over soon. So happy public speaking, and I hope this helps you whenever you are preparing for your next speech or your next interview or anything else. I am now open to questions. Yes, Lily?
What would you suggest to do if you're like in the middle of a speech and then you just like freeze up, like besides breathing, like what would you suggest to do?
Personally, what I do whenever I freeze up is I try to think of like what I last had said, and so that helps me think of what I'm going to say next. So if like I had prepared it in a certain order, I know that, okay, so like in my notes, I talked about being nervous, and then I talked about being prepared. So I think back, okay, like I just talked about being nervous, the next thing must be being prepared. Does that help? Yeah. Yeah, Rachel.
So like you said, like read up and like get like information on what you're gonna be talking about, but like say someone asks you a question about your topic and you have like no idea what the answer is.
I mean, yeah, that happens. Like you're not gonna know everything. I think it's just it's easier to talk about something that you kind of already have an idea of or something that you already know. So if it's something that's totally like foreign territory to you, it's okay to admit that you don't know instead of trying to fumble around for a wrong answer. Yeah, does anyone else have any other questions? Yeah, Jamie.
How did you handle that Peace Corps guy when he...
It was super embarrassing actually because he said that and then I was like, oh yeah, I know. But I clearly, like, and he just kind of stared at me like, stop talking. So it went really well. He's a great guy. He's in this class then. Anybody else have